Is this recording? I think it's recording. And I said, listen, why should I speak about it? I'm not qualified to speak about it. And the person said, quite correctly, that doesn't stop you from talking about everything else that you're not qualified to talk about. I had to say, the man had a good point. Before you tell Kodesh Baruch Hu how big your problems are, tell your problems how big a Kodesh Baruch Hu is. And what's with the toilet paper? I don't know. Is there something about this virus that attacks toilet paper? And eggs? I can't get eggs now. I don't know what it is in Israel. They're rationing the eggs. Something about the chickens? They keep them cooped up anyway. That's why it's called the chicken coop. Cooped up. Sometimes, you get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, you wash up, you get dressed, you take your tefillin, you open the door, and I'm still in bed. I dreamed the whole thing. And my first thought is, oh no, now I have to do it all over again. And I've often thought that second day Yontif was created by the Chachamim in order to encourage Aliyah. That's definitely the reason why I moved here. It may not be the reason I moved here, but certainly the reason I stayed here. I often told over about the comedian who had said, I want to give you a positive message, but I don't have one, so I'll give you two negative ones instead. An important Musa work. That's my opinion. In any event, it's interesting. I've seen people impersonate me. I don't think anyone's ever picked up that phrase in any event, and I think I use it a lot. I'm thinking now, I'm not really sure. I've never tried imitating myself because I do a pretty good Rabbi Orlofsky already. So, anyhow, in any event, I can make myself understood in Hebrew, but I can't speak in Hebrew. Because when you're a speaker, the words are your tools, and I've never really mastered Hebrew the way my children have to be able to communicate ideas. Occasionally, I can tell a joke in Hebrew. It's very hard, very hard. They have, what they call café hafuch. Café hafuch literally means an upside down coffee because they make it with milk. It's like espresso with milk instead of with hot water and you add the milk, So I don't know why it's not called a cappuccino, but they also have a cappuccino, café hafuch. Anyway, so I get onto the elevator and someone had spilled their coffee there. And everybody's like looking at this puddle on the floor and I go, nope, café hafuch. I got to laugh with that. From Israelis, that was really quite an accomplishment. Evidently in Israel, the Orlofsky name doesn't carry the same weight that it does in other places. And my son always says to me, that's good. He says, because if the Israelis knew all the stuff that you said, there would be pashkavilla up about you every single week, condemning you, attacking you. He says, luckily, they have no idea what you do or what you say, so everybody leaves you alone, And I've said it before, and I guess this is a great opportunity to reiterate it. I cannot thank you enough to everybody who listens, including the people who really, really don't seem to like me. Let me talk about one of my favorite topics, of course, myself. I told this story before, but like when I was growing up, I didn't speak Yiddish. My parents, it was their secret language. And I went to yeshivas that either touched into English or into Ivrit, so I never learned Yiddish, And you'd meet older Yidden in the old generation, and they'd start talking to you in Yiddish, and I'm saying, sorry, I don't speak Yiddish. You don't speak Jewish? But you're a Jew and you don't speak Jewish? You don't speak Jewish? But like I said, we're in lockdown here, so like we're not really supposed to leave more than like 100 meters from our house. People get stopped and get tickets, and fines, all kinds of terrible things, unless you protest them. So that's why we were going to have a Simchas Beis Shoeva and put up a big sign, anti-Netanyahu rally. That would be okay. But anyway, I remember we were on a flight once, and this yeshiva guy was sitting next to these two women. It was an El Al flight. So he asked my daughter if he would switch with her. My daughter was, I don't know, 12. Yeah. She said, sure. So he switches seats. It ends up these two ladies are Christian missionaries. And I felt bad for them because they were really not prepared. At the end, my daughter was inviting them over for Shabbos. If nothing else, you can count on me to be an inspiration for mediocrity. I used to grow up, there was always somebody at the piano in the library. You just hope somebody came along who knew the second part. Bum, bum, bum. They passed a law in New York State that if someone plays that for more than 10 minutes and you kill them, you're not held responsible. I happen to use kosher salt, which is better than treif salt. No, that just means thick salt. Is it a true story? I don't know. I'm not Pesach Kron. I don't check out my stories. It could be, it's not. I don't care. It's a great story. Anyway, Rabbi Wein famously says, all my stories are true. It's just some of them haven't happened yet. So Mitzvah Hashem, as we start continuing to start our third year, Kadosh Baruch Hu should give us siyata d'shmaya, that we should be able to share messages with people that give them chizuk, make their life a little better, put a smile on the face of a person who might be, getting a little down. I don't know why. Maybe because they've been locked in their house for 8 months. Who knows why? Some people get crazy over the smallest things. I talk pretty fast, but I can't do what Pesach Kron does. And he comes out with so much enthusiasm that it's so exciting that by the time he's done, you have no idea. Unbelievable what I feel. And I listen, I'm in the audience and he just lifts you up and he carries you away. So that's the story. I'm starting a series. Full disclosure. This is called Part 1. Catchy, eh? I wrote it myself. I was invited once to speak at the Aguda convention. I remember they called me up and they said, we'd like to invite you to speak at the Aguda convention. This was once. Obviously, I did not prepare for it. I walked in the door, I asked one question to the Madricha, who was in charge. I said, do I have to behave myself? She said, no, just be yourself. I always say, the easiest people to deal with are people who don't care what you think. I love it when I have to deal with those kind of people in my life, because it doesn't matter what I say. And that's why you have these people come over and ask you your opinion. What do you think about this? And I just right away say, what do you think? And they're more than happy to tell me what they think. I remember Rabbi Leff, I heard him say once, Rabbi Zev Leff, the Rav of Moshav Matazyo, he said, today, you can find boys who are willing to be Ma'aseh Nefesh to learn Torah. Ma'aseh Nefesh, to give of their soul. Yeah. Ma'aseh Nefesh. If you buy them an apartment and you get them a car and you support them, and it comes with a vacation, it comes with So he said, so what's Mesiras Nefesh? They're going to get up every morning and go to yeshiva. That's called Mesiras Nefesh. I said this over to a group of Kola guys once. And they said to me, well, not every morning, but certainly many mornings. I know I'm talking to the wall. I know that. Quite literally. There it is. Well, one of the things about a desert is they are notorious for the fact that they have no trees. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called a desert. They would be called a forest. I remember one time I was being beaten up on the internet. It happens from time to time. It's hard to believe that there's some people out there who don't like me. Now, I don't know how good your map sense is of direction without Waze, They did not have ways thousands of years ago. Apparently the traffic wasn't so bad. I don't have the energy levels I used to. I'm an old man. When I was younger, I didn't have the energy levels then either, but at least now I have an excuse. I always say, if I go to Olam Haba, it'll be for the times I kept my mouth shut, not for the times that I talked. When I speak in England and South Africa, they use the term brilliant for like, it was nice. In America, you speak, they say, oh, that was very nice, or, it was good, it was enjoyable. You go to these places, they go, brilliant, Rabbi. And I was like, well, yes, I suppose so. It was like this little kid who was on an airplane running around, making trouble, knocking over things. And the stewardess said, kid, do me a favor, play outside. Somebody said, well, nostalgia is not what it used to be. Since I have no filter, I think we've established this. If you're still watching the podcast by this point, you know that, whenever I get up to speak, it's sort of like a high wire performer without a net. You never know exactly where it's going to go. The only one who's better at that than me is definitely Donald Trump. I was once working someplace, and one of the coworkers was remarkably unpleasant to me, more so than one would expect under normal circumstances. Yeah. And I really tried to reach out to him, and finally he says, do you know why all the other people in this organization hate you? I didn't know that they did hate me, but I said, why? He says, because you're funny. How do you think when, we're out there working with the kids and they say, why aren't you funny like Orlofsky? And I looked at him with as much seriousness as I could muster and say, I'll try not to be so funny. This guy runs a stop sign, a cop pulls him over. He says, didn't you see the stop sign? He says, yeah, but I didn't see you. It might take me decades to become perfect. It took me over 20 years. So I became perfect. I got stuck on humility, but once I got that down, the rest was easy. In fact, I would say that humility is probably one of my greatest attributes. But some people write me occasionally and they're like, no, wait, why hasn't there been a podcast this week? I'm not getting what I'm not paying for. And that's it for this episode. And that's it for year 3.